Hello, hello. Welcome once again to another edition of Quoth Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven, 33-year veteran writer, artist, editor, publisher of comics, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and role-playing games. And this is Friday night, December 13th, 2024, and it is Friday Night TV Talk. And our topic tonight is going to be the Doom Patrol HBO Max miniseries from past few years, seasons 1 through 4. And with me this week, my guests this time are Bobby Nash, writer of numerous things. We'll get into that in just a second. And our returning guest, the gentleman who did the animation you just saw, Chris Hall. And here we are, folks.
Hello, hello.
Hey, hey.
And
I got to just say, before we get started, Chris, that animation is gorgeous, by the way. Very good.
Oh,
very good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we worked on that for about a month. It's my assets, my illustrations, but he did all the hard work.
It looks great. You guys did a fantastic job. It looks great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So for those who don't know who Bobby is, let's have Bobby give a little introduction to himself.
Bobby writes all kinds of stuff. I like to today. He writes a little bit of everything. I write comics, novels. I also do audio scripts. I've done a couple of film scripts. I bounce around a lot. I'll write any. It's like one of those things. You know how when you're an actor, they say if a producer or a director ever comes and says, "Can you ride a horse?" you say yes, whether you can or not. I've adapted that to my writing career. Can you? Yes. But I do a lot of different types of genres and whatnot. I also do a little art, do a little acting on the side, and I love the creativeness of all of those. So that's me.
Yes, and we will get into your acting a little bit because Bobby was actually in Doom Patrol.
Yes, 2 episodes. 2 episodes.
2 episodes. That's right. So we were going to talk a little bit about that. And of course, for those who don't know, Chris is, like I said, the animator who did the opening credits there. And also, he is a computer colorist and works for Glasshouse Graphics and the new Exile Studios and HCMP Productions as well. So let's go ahead and get straight into the stuff, though, because we got a lot to talk about in terms of getting stuff talked about. Let's see. Doom Patrol Season 1, developed by Jeremy Carver, based on Doom Patrol comics by Arnold Drake, Bob Haney, and Bruno Permiani, featuring Cyborg, which was created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez from the Teen Titans series. And some of the storylines being used are based on storylines by Vertigo writers Grant Morrison and Rachel Pollack. Genre, superhero comedy drama, I guess is what I would call it. Would you agree with that, Bobby and Chris?
Quirky? Is quirky a genre?
Yeah, quirky,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Weird? Strange?
I don't know if the Doom Patrol has ever been categorized as superheroes, though, have they?
I don't know. I would not think so. I mean, there's superhero trappings, obviously, but
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, I think they were more, I think they were and they came at the same time too. So I always look at Doom Patrol like I look at the X-Men. They were created more of a counterculture thing when they were created.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they were a little
Okay.
bit more of that social impact, social shining a light on how people treated people that were different.
Yes, we'll get.
They're superhero adjacent.
Yeah.
There we go. Superhero adjacent comedy drama. Starring Diane Guerrero, April Bowlby, Matt Bomer, Brendan Fraser, Timothy Dalton. It's supposed to be Hovian. Wait, I didn't know I misspelled that there. And Abigail Shapiro. There's also a couple of other actors. I've forgotten their names, but they will be mentioned later on in other credits.
Yes, I do know Michelle Gomez shows up in the later seasons, and she is.
I'm actually talking about who plays the physical parts for Robot Man and.
Gotcha. Yeah, Matt and God, I'm blanking on his name, but yes,
Yes, we'll get them. We'll get them. Don't worry. Executive producers Jeremy Carver, Jeff Johns, Greg Berlanti, Sarah Schechter, and Chris Dingus. I have a last name to get that.
Right.
Running time of 45 to 60 minutes per episode, with 15 episodes in the first season.
Lucky his name wasn't like Chip Dingus.
What it's about. In the opening season of Doom Patrol, we are introduced to the motley crew of misfit wannabe heroes, collected by Dr. Niles Calder, played by Timothy Dalton, consisting of drunken junkie race car driver Clifford Cliff Steele Robot Man, voiced by Brendan Fraser, physically played by Riley Shanahan. There we go. Larry Trainer, also known as Negative Man, voiced by Matt Bomer, physically played by Matthew Zuck. Rita Farr, Elastigirl, April Balby, and Crazy Jane, portrayed by Diane Guerrero. Over the course of the season, Victor Stone, a.k.a. Cyborg, played by Hovian Wade, joins the group as well. The series begins in 1948 Uruguay. Eric Morden, a henchman, is taken to a Nazi, Heinrich von Fuchs. Von Fuchs is posing as the villager cobbler and takes Morden into an underground chamber to enhance him, basically try to experiment on him and make him superhuman. Once Morden pays Von Fuchs places Morden into a chamber and has him recite that the mind is the limit. White light splash in the chamber, and Morden's existence fractures. And this is the origins of the season's main bad guy, Mr. Nobody. Meanwhile, we are then next introduced to Cliff Steele in the year 1988. We see that he's a low-life cheating scoundrel who is sleeping with his wife, the child's nanny, behind his wife's back. And the wife's name's Kate. Kate suspects that and knows that he's doing it, so they have a fight at the racetrack where he's about to compete in a race, and she tells him to crash and die. While he's on a track, she starts fooling with one of his pit crew, and it distracts him enough that he does just that. He crashes and pretty much dies. Only he wakes up to find Dr. Calder looking down on him, working with welding tools. The race car driver flickers in and out of consciousness, seeing Calder watching a TV show about welding, which does not help. A man wrapped in bandages and an energy beam. Later, Cliff wakes up and Niles addresses him by name and introduces himself, and he has Cliff nod his head to indicate that Cliff can hear him. Later, Cliff sees Niles with Rita Farr watching one of Rita's old movies, with Rita mouthing the dialogue as alongside with her movie self. Eventually, Cliff realizes what has happened. His body died in a car crash, and Halder has taken his brain and put it into a robot body. Worse for him, though, the world thinks that he is just plain dead from the car crash and that 7 years have passed. Freaking out by this revelation, Calder shuts the robot body down. We are then introduced to pilot Larry Trainer as his origins as a test pilot in 1961, as he's about to test a new plane, the X-15. He flies beyond the atmosphere, and a radioactive field hits the plane. This field enters his body, and he passes out, which eventually causes the plane to fall back towards the Earth, and the jet crashes. And his wife, Cheryl, and her children see the crash in the distance, thinking he's dead. When the technicians arrive to try and see what's left of him, they find a burned and scarred Larry walking toward them, still on fire, but apparently alive. And so it goes, introducing the various origins of the characters. We learn that Jane is a woman with multiple personalities, with each one having a different psychic power that manifests different skills. And we learn about Rita's abilities and that she kind of like turns into a blob when she's not concentrating. So it's kind of an interesting motley crew. After the intros are made, it is clear that the collective group of freaks feel that they are trapped lab experiments under Calder's purview, and they want to get out of the mansion that they're not really held captive, but they are held captive in. As Calder takes a short leave to go find some other people, they decide to leave as well and go to the nearby town of Cloverton, even though they're fully aware that they're not going to be well received as the freaks that they are. But because of their appearance in the town, the entire town gets destroyed. By the end of the pilot episode, Calder is captured by Eric, who now calls himself Mr. Nobody, played by Alan Tudyk. And the group have to rescue him. Joined by Cyborg, who has his own history and reasons to search for Calder, The group engage in a number of adventures, including facing their own personal past as Mr. Nobody tortures them into reliving their worst moments, and they learn of their mentor's past exploits and questionable things that Calder has done, which has made their desire to recover him both lessened because of their total disdain for him, but strengthened as well because they want to make him repent and do things right. As the search for Calder continues, they have to team up with a pug and stop an extra-dimensional being from ending the world. Rita reminisces upon the first Doom Patrol from the 1960s before this group was around. The team explores group therapy. They meet the genderqueer teleporting street Danny, who becomes a very prominent part of the series as the series progresses. And we figure out that Jane's father was abusive and sparked her condition as a multiple personality and other topics that take the whole course of the series as they explore their personal histories. The Doom Patrol finally lands on the threshold, rescuing Calder from the clutches of Mr. Nobody with the help of Flex Mintello and Danny the Street. The group enters the white space where Mr. Nobody offers them a chance to start their lives over. However, they refute the offer and save their mentor and learn the reasons that he's been doing these evil things is because he's trying to save his daughter. They manage to end up trapping Mr. Nobody in a separate pocket dimension at great personal cost as the season closes. Whoops. Supposed to do this. There we go. Quick overview there. I know that Chris hasn't watched it recently. When was the last time you watched the first season?
I watched it earlier this year. I finally sat down and watched the whole thing. I had not seen all of it, so okay. I binged it earlier this year.
Okay. I just finished binging season 4, so just the very tail end. But my first impressions of the first pilot, especially, when we're introduced to Cliff Steele, is this character is so despicable and deplorable. Why are we going to like him at all? Mm-hmm. Now, it certainly didn't remind me of Robot Man in the comics. Did it remind you of Robot Man? No.
And I didn't read the Vertigo series, so I wasn't as invested in this version of them before the show.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Yeah, but because I knew the version that had appeared in the Teen Titans, the new Teen Titans, when they found them, and some of them were dead and all that. So I was familiar with that version, and I had read a little bit of the old ones, and I know they did some. This is a series that's been rebooted many times, and one of the series I read only had Robot Man was the only character from the original cast that was in it. So I'd read others, but I had not read the Grant Morrison Vertigo stuff. I had not read that one.
Okay.
It was a little. It just seemed a little out there for me at the time, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm good."
Am I the only one who was very off-put by seeing Brendan Fraser, of all people, portrayed the way he was? Like, he was so despicable in that when we first get introduced to him, plowing that woman.
The nanny.
Yeah. It was just like so off-putting seeing Brendan Fraser in that role, for me anyway.
Well, that I think that was the point, though.
Yeah,
they wanted to show you this guy that you're so beloved as an actor, playing this despicable guy, so that you hate this guy and you have no sympathy, so that when he does, or if he does, have redemption as Robot Man, you're rooting for him. But they did it so excessively or so well, depending on your point of view, that you really, it took me a long time to actually want to care about this character.
I think that's where binging it helped me, because I didn't have to wait a week between all the episodes. So I got to that with him faster.
Right.
That once because really, he does become the heart of the show. He is kind of
one
the
of
thing.
The hearts. Yeah.
The show outside of Calder, who causes a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
he is kind of the center of things. Things either revolve around him or he's just involved with everything. And
Yeah.
I think with me, where I really started to feel it was when the relationship between him and Jane.
Yeah. Which we'll
That's
get
where
to.
I started to feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that. That's yeah, we're all on the same page though. At the very beginning, he's a very despicable character.
Yeah, you're not
Yeah.
supposed to like him. No.
So
Really, not too many of them are likable when it starts.
I adored Jane at first.
Me
Yeah.
I
too.
really did.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was what was weird was some of the other personas when they came out.
Mm-hmm.
But the Jane character herself, I'm like, yeah, I like this. I like Diane Guerrero's what she's doing with that character. It became even more interesting, and I wish they had done a little bit more with the other personalities as the series progressed. But like the Hammerhead character was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a few other characters in there that were just really well done. The only one that really got a spotlight, which we'll get into around season 3, early season 4, was the psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like, yeah, I would have liked to see a little bit more of that with the characters. But in terms of the plot of the first season and the overall arcs, I mean, Elastigirl is annoying, but she's not unlikable. I would say that I'm trying to think. Larry is just too whiny. Yeah, he's like, oh, what was me? I've lost my love. I've lost everything. I have no reason to live. I'm stuck with this silly thing in my and of course that character gets mocked for that by the others throughout the series as well. So I mean, it's fairly obvious what they're doing with that character in that regard. Calder, you really don't see how despicable he is until things are revealed. You can like him until it's time not to like him. I'm trying to think who else is there. Cyborg doesn't really. Well, they make him fit, but he's not really a member.
Right. He doesn't really kind of join the team until we're
what I'm
into
saying,
it. Yeah.
Well, Chris and I were saying is he didn't belong in the series.
Right.
He's really not. He belongs in the Titans TV series.
And I understand why they put him with the Doom Patrol, because he fits that quirky, out of body, like doesn't fit in his body quite yet character.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just didn't sit right with me, him being in this series.
Yeah. This was also in a time when this was made, when DC was making a concerted effort to make Cyborg like a spotlight character.
Right.
They were putting him in the Justice League comics. He was in the Justice League movie. There's a Teen Titans show that's running concurrent with this, where there is a different version of Cyborg in that show. So they were really trying to. Cyborg was everywhere.
Cyborg wasn't.
There was a Cyborg in the Titans. But it was played by a different actor. Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Because when the Doom Patrol is introduced in Titans, Cyborg is there.
Are we talking about the TV show?
Yeah, the Teen Titans TV show.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and watch because no, I think they did. They brought the Titans from Doom Patrol over into the Titans for a brief spell, just one episode. But that's it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But no, I always thought that they should have put the Beast Boy character from Titans in Doom Patrol because he has those ties to the Doom Patrol in the comics, and that Cyborg should have been in Titans. But yeah, 6 of one, half a dozen other. It works. We're not dissing the actor or the character. It was just kind of odd choosing at the time. It could have been because Jeff Johns was running both shows concurrently, and he wanted that, showrunner. It's hard to say. what did you think of the overall development of the season, Bobby?
I enjoyed it. I kind of liked that we see a lot of it coming together. And that, we didn't they're just there and they're a group and it's all this. We got to see kind of them coming together and them learning to work together, and getting to know all the characters that way. And it wasn't the typical type of superhero show that we're used to seeing. So it was very much its own unique kind of entity. And
Yes.
and the early episodes, were really almost standalone character bit. I mean, there was stuff with other characters, but like,
no, you're talking about the B plots,
right? But yeah, but I mean, some of the early episodes were just this is a cyborg episode. This is a Larry Trainer episode. This is a Cliff, and to kind of get us to know them before they became a team. But the overall story for season 1, I really enjoyed. I think Alan Tudyk is fantastic as Mr. Nobody. I think he is a wonderful villain for them.
Very underrated actor.
Yes, and playing a character that's just as quirky and weird, as the Doom Patrol members. Yes, but he's also got that ability. Alan Tudyk has that ability to go from lovable goofball to menace like that. He has the ability to just turn it on and off, and I think that worked really well.
Yeah, I think that also him doing that, I can't remember how things worked timeline wise, because of course he became the featured character in the Resident Alien series for Sci-Fi. Depending on when those were filmed, I think his performance as Mr. Nobody kind of led him to that direction.
Yeah, I think Resident Alien came after Doom. I think, yeah. But yeah, he's fantastic. I mean, I've enjoyed him in so many things. He has just recently returned to DC. He's voicing Dr. Phosphorus on Creature Commandos.
Right.
Yeah. There was a clip I just watched on Facebook, and it's the whole cast of Creature Commandos sitting there, and Alan Tudyk. He's talking about how he gets to play Clayface in 2 different aspects, because he plays it in the Harley Quinn series, and he's all like this, and he's very dramatic, and he's an idiot. And then he goes from that voice to where he plays in Creature Commandos, and he plays Clayface there too, and he's just this psychopath killer. And Frank Grillo, who plays Flag, turns around and he's like, "You are just freaking amazing, man." Like, it just the way he can just switch characters like that. Like, Alan is just amazing.
Yeah. Now, you were talking about those solo episodes, those.
Yeah, the first 4 or 5, I think.
Yeah.
They're
like characterizational B plots, though, and let's get into that just a second. Like, there's Jane's character. She's always dealing with her alternate personalities in what she calls the underground, and arguing with them whether or not she should be the front lead persona. And of course, that is the major path of her character arc throughout the series. Robot Man's theme becomes trying to connect with his daughter and newborn grandson, and how that parallels with Niles Calder and his daughter. Elastigirl's arc and theme is finding the self-confidence she always faked when she was an actress before she became a freak, and becoming comfortable with who and what she is. Negative Man's issues are about his sexuality, because he's a gay man, and finding love and family after he lost the wife and children in a plane crash that gave him his abilities. And of course, Calder's arc is coming to acceptance with your own past misdeeds, being a parent and accepting your own mortality, because he's trying to become immortal. And lastly, Cyborg's arc is trying to return to the person he was before he became Cyborg, and trying to learn how to accept himself. And that's a whole lot of the whole themes for all of them, is learning how to accept yourself for who you are. I think that's whoops, wrong button. Like you say, they interact with each other. A lot of them interact like, Jean's interactions with Robot Man, and Trainer's more with Elastigirl more because they were there the longest together or whatever.
Mhm.
It was quite interesting how they paired off certain ones, and then here's Cyborg. He is a Johnny Come Lately, but he's also like the outsider. You're not one of us. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, I think you hit upon something in your the screen you put up where you mentioned they were looking for family. And I
Yeah.
think they're all looking for something because they've all lost. Even
Everything.
though even in season 1, we don't necessarily know all those things because we don't know about Cliff's daughter at first. We don't know about Niles' daughter at first. Those things come later. But we all know they're looking for something, and they find something that keeps them together. Because, there are multiple episodes about them going, one of them going, I'm leaving. But they
Right.
keep coming up with reasons to stay.
Yeah.
And that, I think they've built this family.
Yeah, they found
dysfunctional,
family.
this dysfunctional as it is, they found something in each other that keeps them there.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they don't have anybody else, so
Mm-hmm.
they have to accept each other as the family, and that's the overarching theme of the first season: is one, coming to terms with themselves, and two, learning to be a team and respect and admire each other.
Yeah. And who's going to understand a freak like me better than another freak like me?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And I mean, yeah, and that becomes a whole big thing. I mean, you mentioned Danny the Street. I played one of the Dannysons when I was on the show, so it was, that was the thing, is that we have found this family in Danny, and that plays a lot because it's a place where all the people that don't fit into the norms of the world have a place to go.
Right, which we're going to get to that.
Sure.
We're just about to talk about the season 2. Same.
Well, actually, can I mention first? I was in a season 1 episode.
Okay.
I am in episode. I have a very brief. I'm just in the background, but I have a very brief role in episode 2, which is the one where Larry has decided he's leaving, and he's going to the bus station, and he's buying bus tickets, but then Negative Man won't let him leave. I'm in that scene. I'm the only person in the suit, so I kind of stand out. What they told me when we were filming it was, because they were telling everybody, just kind of ignore him until he screams, and then you guys can look that way. Except you. I want you to keep an eye on him. So I'm like a government agent or something.
Oh, okay.
That is watching. I don't do anything. I don't interact with him, but I am.
Right.
I am consciously clocking him no matter where I am in a scene.
Okay.
And so that was fun. It was so fun watching Matthew, who is in the suit,
right?
Doing all of that, and the collapsing. Obviously I'm seeing it without the special effects and all that, but because at that point I had no idea how the show was going to have Negative Man look. I knew how he looked in the comics, but and so that was fun to watch. It was also extremely hot.
Yeah.
We were outside all day into the evening. It was very, very hot in Atlanta. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, Atlanta. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this was September, and it was like 94 degrees. And because I remember it was the week after Dragon Con, so it was like it was rough.
Well, hopefully they had good craft services.
Not really, because we filmed at that bus station was an old abandoned gas station on a corner, and that's all we had was that corner lot. So when we weren't on film, we were just sitting behind the gas station and like folding chairs under a tent. It wasn't fancy crafts. It was crackers and water.
Oh, okay.
We were in downtown Atlanta because we were right down the street from the Capitol, and so it was busy. It was traffic was constantly going.
And you got to do it when there's like enough traffic that traffic is slowed down enough that you don't have all the noise.
Right. Whenever like the police would stop traffic when we had something specific where people had dialogue, but the rest of it just added to the background noise of the buses. Right. Because, we had running buses, except when there was dialogue, because then you have to turn them off because the microphones pick up everything.
Everything, right.
So, yes, there's one. I spent a good hour. I would get on a bus and sit there, and the bus is not running. So I thought it was hot outside. It was like being in a sauna.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a sauna.
Yeah, and that's been my experience with almost every set I've been on. It's either super, super hot or super, super cold.
Super cold.
You are never comfortable on a movie set because it is extreme degrees of temperature, because you can't run heat or air because it makes noise. So yeah, but so I am in that episode. That is a lot. That was the first time I saw and we can talk about this later.
That scene now, because I don't remember seeing you.
Yeah, I'm only in. It's quick, and I'm in the background. But if you look for the guy in the black suit,
all right.
But
I'm sure I'll recognize you when I'm looking for you. So
yeah, and I'm sure we can talk about this a little later. But that was my first time getting to look at the suit. And the suits are pretty awesome. So we'll definitely talk about that later. But
so quick question, Bobby. I have to know, and you don't have to get into specifics. Does being a background actor pay decent?
Not really.
Okay.
I do it on a part-time basis just because it gets, as a writer, I'm at home all the time. So sometimes it gets me out of the house. Plus I do a lot of conventions. So being able to go, hey, I was on Doom Patrol is a bonus for me. Mostly doing background actor, you're probably making about $15 an hour.
Okay.
And you're guaranteed 8 hours. And then after 8, it's time and a half. And that's an average. It could be less. I've done some gigs where it's a smaller production where they pay like $12.
Okay.
And some, but anywhere in that area. But you're guaranteed 8. So if you go, and this has only happened to me a couple of times, if you go and work less than 8 hours, you still get paid for the whole 8.
And that's governed by SAG?
I'm not sure. I probably.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's because Georgia background they're not SAG actors doing background. Because it's more of a right to work state. So, but yeah, so it's that. But you go in and so you're guaranteed. But like I said, with the exception of 2 times, maybe you're there 13, 14 hours. So, yeah, and like I said, I don't do it often. I know some people that do it regularly enough that they can make an okay living, but you've got to be. And I don't live in Atlanta; I live outside of Atlanta, so it's not always, Plus, I've got a right too, so it's not always conducive to me doing it on a regular basis. And these days, I do it just, oh, that looks like a cool project, or oh my God, that's close to home.
Yeah.
I picked a couple of gigs because I was like, hey, you're 5 minutes from my house. Can I be on the set? I am right here, But yeah, so but I don't do it as much. I did it for a few years where I would do a lot, and it's fun. It's boring a little. For all the time you're working and there's cool stuff going on, there's almost equally that much time where you're sitting there bored out of your mind with nothing to do.
Because they're setting up the sets or doing whatever they're doing.
TV. I like TV better because TV moves. So and when you're working on a movie and they yell cut, they shuttle us off to a trailer. We're out of the way. You can't see anything. On a TV set, when they need to switch up, we go stand over there. The actors go stand over here, and I can sit there and watch what they're doing. So it's almost like going to film school. I can see what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're setting it up, watching how the actors are preparing, and I can watch. So I learn stuff. So that when I do have those occasions where I have lines or I'm actually playing a character, not a background, I'm learning stuff watching people that are so much better at it than me do it. So yeah, and then so that's cool. But that's my only appearance in season 1, and like I said, I'm just in the background of a few scenes. But that was a wonderful scene to watch them film.
Okay.
Very cool.
Season 2, again, same people. There's only 9 episodes instead of 15 in season 2. And whoops, why did I do that? Okay. We're not going to worry about the general basics. I'm going to let you guys read that on the screen yourselves quietly. I'll just start with they survived the entity, Mr. Nobody, in the first season, but they are stuck as miniature versions of themselves, save for Larry, who is his normal size because he was absent for the battle against Nobody at the end of season 1. Calder's daughter, Dorothy, who's at the very front of the picture that you see there, is now part of the story. She's a being of power introduced in this season, and the team is largely going to go through trust issues with Niles, who basically used them to create immortality for himself so he could be there for his daughter. As they are all failed experiments and freaks, and it has been revealed that Niles experimented on them without their consent and changed them into what they become. There's a lot of resentment and anger towards Calder as each character spends the season going through more self-exploration and development, trying to figure out what they are outside of being the group. This is where Wilmot Man tries to reconcile with his daughter who thought he had died. It's very awkward and very sad, even though Brandon Fraser does an incredible job of bringing humor to the character and the presentation of his arc throughout the season. Rita is explored to her past as before her days as an actress, and is discovered that her mother had sex to get acting roles for herself and for her daughter to get as a child star, which has been in her subconscious all these years, and why she hates her mother and herself because she thinks she never really earned her ability as an actress. And when she gets criticized as an actress, she's like, well, that's because I was never really good enough type attitude. And it kind of weakens her because the more self-doubt she has, the less control she has over her abilities as well. One of Larry's sons from his wife dies, and he tries to go to the funeral, even though the government wants him as an experiment, and his other son is in the military. And that blows up in everyone's face. We don't want to spoil exactly what happens there, but it gets quite hairy for Larry. Cyborg gets a girlfriend and is dealing with his own PTSD issues with what happened to him that caused him to need the cybernetics. That was very well written. Scenes, not just with him dealing with the PTSD, but also his interaction with his father, because his father and him had a very have a distanced relationship post the death of his mother and what happened to him. And then to me, the best is Diane Guerrero playing Crazy Jane in her arc, because it goes so deep inside the character and what caused her to develop the 64 different split personalities. And there's a betrayal at the end of the season by one of the personalities who isn't who they appear to be. The next best storyline going on, in my opinion, is about Dorothy Niles' daughter, which is played by Abigail Shapiro. Basically, she's been held back from aging, and this is the result of a union between Niles and Slava, a mysterious primitive woman living in the Yukon that became the lover of Niles in 1900. And Dorothy is over 100 years old. I think it's 111 and not 111 3/4 by the time they were doing it in the story. But she looks like she's 11 or 12 years old. And basically, whenever she loses her innocent childhood, she'll become a dangerous threat to the world, as her power is her imagination and her imaginary friends and what she can do to unleash them. Hence, while Niles wants to keep her, he wants to become immortal and outlive her and keep her in the child state, because he's afraid that when he dies, that's going to trigger her having to grow up, basically. Again, we got sexual overtones like we did in the first season. Rita has to deal with the realization of acceptance of what her mom did, And we learn that Jane is the primary personality because another son of Miranda screwed up and got the body involved in an orgy against everyone else's wishes. And now that tied into the trauma that the original personality, Kay, suffered at the hands of her father. And it's not so much the innocence of Dorothy, but the fact that even though she's aged incredibly slowly, she is physically maturing into a woman and seeing all these sexual things going on, which maturates her and makes her not be a child anymore by the end of the season, which leaves the season on a whopping cliffhanger. Now, the cliffhanger was not intended. The season was cut short due to COVID pandemic, and they had to shut down production. Carver and company do a great job, though, tying things up as well as they do and leaving the show at the strong closing point moving into season 3. So let's move on. What do you guys think of season 2?
I like season 2. Season 2 is pretty fun.
My
other episode was in season 2.
So, yes. Well, that is, of course, when we learn about Danny the Street more,
mm-hmm.
and Flex Mentallo and some of the other characters. I can't remember exactly. That's because Danny's hiding Dorothy, if I remember right.
Right. Danny,
Yes.
Dorothy is living on Danny the Street, and then due to things that happened in season 1, and I think maybe the beginning of season 2, where Danny is attacked by the military, or the military, the military, or the
Bureau of Normalcy.
Bureau of Normalcy. Thank you. And that's when the one character, by going on to Danny, becomes a Danizen himself. Oh, what's his name? Morally compromised.
Yeah, morally compromised.
Yes, because I worked with that actor as well. I was there when Morally was on set. And Danny becomes injured.
Right.
Which is handled in a very Doom Patrol way. Instead of now being a street, Danny has to become something smaller to heal, and Danny becomes a brick.
Right.
So yes, and so I think it's a wonderful little thing how they have managed to take an inanimate, something that no actor is playing Danny. It's all Danny is a character because the other characters believe him to be a character. And I think they do a wonderful job with making you believe that Danny is real. And as for the role I played, because I did interact with the brick, and I did interact with the tire that Danny becomes after getting healed.
Right.
But that was the thing. You had to believe it. If we didn't sell it, it's silly. And I think the actors did a fantastic job, especially Abigail. I can't say enough about Abigail Shapiro. She is fantastic as Dorothy. And having seen the makeup up close too, the makeup is just fantastic. But she's wonderful. I got to watch her work. She's great in the whole season, I think. And she plays the duality of Dorothy very well, that she is a kid, but like you mentioned earlier, she's got that maturity but she kind of comes in and out of it, and she knows that Niles wants her to be a kid, so she's tamping that down to be a kid around him and that kind of stuff. And I think her storyline is fantastic. I think she and Timothy Dalton are fantastic together. I think they do really well. I was there when they do their sing along together, so I got to watch them do that, and that was fun. And but good stuff. And the addition of Flex Mentallo, who I knew was from the comics. I didn't know a lot about, but I thought the actor that played, and I don't remember his name, sorry, was fantastic. He was just wonderful. Very nice guy. Had to be freezing because we talked earlier about extreme heat when we were doing episode 1. We filmed the 4 seasons. One episode is the season 2 is I'm in. We filmed that the week of Christmas. And so when we're outside and he's wearing nothing but a loincloth, it's like 30 degrees. It was very, very cold. But yeah. But the season was
And
wonderful. I love the season.
the actor who plays Flex also plays Thor in the series Ghosts.
Okay. Yes, that's right. Yes, yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's fantastic. Yeah.
And this is the
Yeah.
scene that he's talking about where they're
Oh,
in,
yes, with the tire.
yes, with the tire, and they're kind of in. I can't remember the exact scene. The set this scene up
Yeah.
real quick.
We are in, well, Dorothy accidentally knocks Danny, the brick, off the table and breaks Danny. And so Danny is already in a weakened state, and so Maura Lee shows up, and because she has now become like the leader of the Dannysons, because we no longer can live on Danny. We've kind of had to do our own thing, find our own place, and we know that somehow she has found out that Danny is injured, and we have shown up, the Dannysons. We have shown up at Doom Patrol Mansion to do what we can to heal Danny by giving part of ourselves and part of our energy to revive Danny, to let Danny live off of our goodwill and good feelings and good thoughts. And of course, to do that, we've got to have a party.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have this big party full of the Doom Patrol, obviously, and the Dannysons. And so we are all, I am one of the more sedately dressed. That's me there in the yellow hat. I am one of the more sedately dressed people, although I am wearing gold makeup, which is hard to see in the photo there, but I am wearing gold makeup, and there are jewels glued to my face.
Right.
And my eyebrows go up like this, which the hat kind of covers. But they put me in this, and I had grown the beard for another thing. I was on Creep Show, and I had to play a Santa. So I had the beard for that. And so when I showed up for dress rehearsal or for wardrobe, they didn't know I had the beard until I got there. And so that gave them the idea to dress me to look like George R.R. Martin.
Exactly. That's what I was like. Yes, he's playing George R.R. Martin in this, by the way.
And Riley, who plays Robot Man, kept referring to me as Disco George.
Right.
So I was Disco George. And we filmed in the Doom Patrol Mansion is a real mansion that we film in. It's an older mansion, but it is a real mansion. We filmed inside. Beautiful place. I mean, it is run down, but I'm sure in its day it was beautiful. And so we were upstairs when we weren't filming. We were downstairs when we were filming. And this is this big room. It's the room that you see it in. When you see that room, that's where we're filming. And so, yeah, so we're going to have a party and we're going to do all this. And I was suffering from a bout of sciatica around this time. And so I was walking with a cane. So when they cleared the room, they let me stay in the room instead of clearing out with all the other Dannysons. I got to just kind of sit in the corner. So I spent quite a good time with Matthew and Riley, who are Larry and Cliff in the costumes. And so I got to sit down there and watch them do the setups and all that stuff. And then I would just kind of hide the cane when I was time to act. But it was fun. It was a wonderful time. We had it was a real party. There were points where they were just like, okay, our main character is here doing stuff. And then we all were spread around them in little groups. And basically it was just like, okay, we're having a party. You guys are here, do this. So I'm hanging out with a group of drag queens at one point. We're over in one corner. Me and another guy are playing chess we play chess for a couple of hours. We're milling around while Dorothy is singing. We're doing all of this stuff. Then they go through the door and they're back on Danny and the dance club. I am not in the dance club, which filmed after the new year because I was sick. And I was like, I don't need to be giving this to people.
Anybody
And-
else? Yeah.
Yeah, so they were like, okay. So so I'm there. We go in the dance room. I'm not there, and then we come back. I'm there. The magic of TV. But through the course of all of this, we start to see that Danny knits back together, and Danny starts going through this metamorphosis. And we all gather, and that's what this picture is here. We have all gathered around Danny, and Morley is there, and Flex, and there's like a cover draped over Danny, and Danny is now grown. It's not a little brick anymore. We can see it's something big, and so Danny is on top of the piano, and you can just see it in this picture here at the very bottom. It's a tire from a car. You know, when they pull the cover off, Danny has become a tire, and so we're there. This particular scene here, if you can see, I got my, because we're hearing Danny sent a letter that Dorothy is reading Danny's thoughts in this letter, and Dorothy's talking about. Dorothy's reading this letter or Danny's talking about new beginnings, and it's time to change, and Danny's going to go off and explore the cosmos, and we're all like, oh no. What are we going to do? Danny's leaving us. So we're all very sad and all this stuff. And then Danny, in the letter, Danny mentions that, that change is good. We're going to blah, blah, blah. We're going to grow and all this. And then Flex says some stuff and more, we're all talking to the main actors are talking to the tire. And then Danny starts shooting up dialogue in like sparkly letters. To talk to us.
That's one of the best things about Danny.
Yeah, to talk to us directly. And so Flex says, "Can we go with you?" And Danny invites all of the Dannysons to go on this journey into the cosmos. We're going to go explore outer space and other dimensions. And so right after this particular scene here where we're all standing about, like I step forward, like Robot Man and Larry take a step back, and I kind of step in between them. And then, there's people around me as well. And we all reach our hands in and we lay our hands on Danny. And there's, going to be, now again, we don't know what it's going to look like. They're just telling us it's going to be sparkly this and sparkly that. And so we go in and we've got our hands on Danny and we're kind of chanting a little and, very almost cultish, and we're doing all this and Morley's talking and Flex is talking and, Robot Man and even though these are not the guys, even though Riley and Matthew are not the guys delivering the final voice that's in the show, they are delivering the lines on set.
Right.
So they know them. They are delivering all the lines on set. And so they're having conversation. Wait, what's going on? What, especially Robot Man. It's like, what's going on? What? And then we all get kind of sparkly and then we all vanish.
Right.
And so we have to film, obviously movie magic. They basically yell, cut, we leave. Mm-hmm. Everybody else stays frozen. All the actors that don't go stay frozen. And then the camera pulls back and we're just gone.
Right.
And then Robot Man kind of has a little, the little, joke tag at the end.
Right.
Which involves an F, like every bit of dialogue of his involves an F-bomb. But but it was just, so that was the first time I'd ever been involved with a special effect, which was awesome. As simple as it was so awesome. But I was there for all of that. We got to do, when they're getting ready to start the party, like in the photo here, you can see the lights over the windows. Mm-hmm. When they're starting to do the party and Rita and Flex are talking about, well, we need a party, we need to do this, and we need to do that. And so Flex just starts going, oh, you need lights, and he flexes and then all these lights fall.
Right.
And he flexes again and balloons show up. And like, there's a scene with me where I'm over there. It's me and like a couple of, there's like 3 drag queens and me. We're over here talking, and like I'm wearing like a feather boa. Mm-hmm. It's like hot pink feather boa. It looked really, really smashing on
It's
me.
the same boa that's on his shoulder.
Yes, actually, it is. And so we're there, and so Flex does his little, Flex is one of the muscles, and so this stand with flowers on it pops in behind me, and I'm kind of like, like, what the hell is that? so,
Yeah.
so we're doing all that kind of stuff, and that stuff was fun. And so we did all that, and then I was there when Flex has Dorothy float up with the disco ball, and I'm telling you, Abigail was having the time of her life that day, getting to fly, and it's pretty tall. It's a very big room.
Yeah.
So all that was just wonderful. It was a wonderful, and I think that was 3 or 4 days, night shoots. So it was mostly like, it was afternoon. We'd get there. It was like 3 in the morning. We'd leave. Long days, very cold, but we had a ball. It was just so much fun. We had a blast. I got to meet most of them. The April, who plays Rita and Diane, were there, but they didn't really interact with us very much.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke very briefly to Timothy Dalton, so I've met my first Bond, so that was awesome. But mostly I spent my time with Flex and Morley, and then Larry and Cliff. That's who I spent most of my time with. But they were all fantastic.
The actor who plays Riley Shanahan, what is his performances like compared to Brandon's? Because you're there to see the performance.
Very similar. By season 2, he knows what Brendan Fraser's doing.
Yeah.
So he is doing a lot of that. A very important thing about Robot Man that you might not know, because between takes, and it's a very big costume. It is thick and bulky. And so as soon as they yell cut, somebody's there with a box for him to sit down on.
Right.
And they take the faceplate comes off.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still in it, but the faceplate comes off. And so the red that's in his eyes, those lights are in his face. So when he's in costume, he can't see.
Oh, wow.
So he's doing all of this stuff practically blind.
Wow.
And so, but it's a beautiful, so I got to, sitting there next to him when they take the thing off, I got to see the inner workings of the faceplate and all. They're gorgeous. These 2 costumes are absolutely gorgeous up close. But his is huge. It's bulky, and he moves very slow in it, especially, and he has to really work out where he's going.
Mm-hmm.
And big shoes. The shoes are huge. So I don't know how he stays upright. And then Larry's, the bandages on his arms, it's basically a 1-piece glove that they can put on and zip up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the headset, it's got a zipper in the back, and they can take the whole thing off. Right. So it's made of individual bandages, but they're sewed together that they don't have to like wrap him every time. It's
right.
And so if he's not on camera, like when we show up at Doom Patrol Manor and we're outside and Dorothy answers the door and says it's the weirdos, and we come, Larry comes to the door, because the camera's on us, he's doing all that stuff without the helmet on. And so, but those guys, those are great looking costumes, absolutely fantastic looking costumes up close. And those guys were fun. I had a great time working with them.
Well, man, I was told that there's a lot of similarities between Riley and Brendan, just overall.
Yeah, I mean, and the way he was delivering dialogue when I was there. Now, if you're not close to him, you may not hear it.
Mm-hmm.
But because I was like, he's right here, I could hear, the dialogue, and he sounds enough like Brendan Fraser that they've got the same kind of voice and mannerisms. That when I watched the episode and heard it in Brendan Fraser's voice, it was still close enough to how he had delivered the lines on set. So he's good, and Matthew, who does Larry, is the same way. He is delivering, he's delivering the lines, acting them as if he's Larry Trainer in the
Okay.
same way that Matt Bomer would deliver. So I'm assuming, I don't know this, but I assume that those guys all work together to kind of
Well, yeah, they do,
get
but
that down. But yeah, it's but
I-
they were
I-
very, yeah, it was very close. It was very close to how, yeah, they sound like their voice actor counterparts. So yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So they were
Yeah.
really good. They were, yeah, and yeah, because I didn't know, because I mean, I didn't know if they would just be stunt guys or, but no, those guys are acting it, you know, as if
Right.
they're delivering the dialogue and everything, and so, and I think that probably helped the people they were working with too, because they're
Right.
getting that, they're not just getting
Interaction back and
stayed,
forth.
yeah, they're not getting like unemotional readings. Someone's actually performing these lines, and so yeah, I thought they were really good. They were fantastic, and the scene, the suits look great. I thought Flex Mentallo was also fantastic. That actor, and I hate that I can't remember his name. He was, and not only was he very good and very likable in that, because he's constantly smiling. He's kind of got that old timey kind of thing. But watching him do the muscle flexes was hilarious, because he is flexing all like, I can't make my arms jump like that, but so yeah, it was just fantastic. And I just, like I said, had to be freezing, because he's not wearing much. And several of the Dannysons, I was lucky. I'm wearing, I'm covered head to toe except for like here. I've got long sleeves on, I've got a vest on, a hat. I'm good. But some of the folks I was working with, there was one of the drag performers that I was with was in a sheer see-through, like paper thin dress, freezing, just absolutely. And then there were those that were wearing nothing but like Speedos and wings. And then when we went back to change, we had to go down across the outside the building, across the parking lot to where we changed in a tent. So they were freezing, and I was freezing. They had to be cold. But yeah, it was a cold experience, but it was fun. It was fun.
And the actor that plays Flex is Devin Chandler Long.
Thank you. Yes, he was really good, because he was one of the Dannysons. So he's with us most of the time, and Morally, it's kind of like the leader of the Dannysons when we're not on Danny. And so yeah, they were fantastic, and there was a bit of that sense of camaraderie of the Dannysons, because we were all in scenes together, so we were all hanging out together. So when we weren't in scenes together, we were all over here hanging out together, or we're upstairs. We're upstairs playing games, and there's people playing cards. Some people are, but we have to be quiet, but we are upstairs, and so we're up there chit-chatting and getting to know each other. And so a lot of the Dannysons, were chummy, so we could play that when we were on. Because sometimes when you do these things, they'll throw you together with someone you've never met. You've met them just now, and they're like, okay, act like you guys have been friends forever, or act like you're in love, or act, And so this at least gave us, and we were there, like I said, we were there that week, 4 days, I think, 3 days, 4 days, whatever it was. And it was freezing, and we kind of bonded, and it was also, like I said, it was leading up to, like, we left Christmas Eve morning at like 3 a.m. was the last day where we took the Christmas holiday. So there was a lot of that. There was people talking about Christmas and holiday stuff. And so, yeah, so we just had a ball. It was so much fun. It's one of those things. It's like, I can't believe they're paying us to do this. We're having a blast.
Right.
But yeah, so it was a good time. The cast and crew, the cast behind the scenes were great. The director, I forget the director's name, Lewis something. He was very nice to me. He was, sometimes you do these and you never talk to the director. The director ignores you like you're not there. But he was, I want you to do this. Here's why we're going to do this. I think the first take I did where the thing popped up behind me, he was like, less acting. And I'm like, okay. So, yeah. So, but that was my experience on set, and yeah, and so it was much more fun after that watching everybody doing it, having that experience with them. But it was a fun episode.
So,
Go ahead.
question. Now, admittedly, it's been a minute since I've watched the show. Season 2 is where the flex scene takes place, right?
Well, there's two different ones. There's the one where they're outside where he first appears.
I'm talking about the orgasm scene.
Yeah, well, there's two of those.
Okay. Yeah.
There's one that happens when they're outside in the city, in the town. Then there's one that happens in that episode there with Rita up in her room, and she asks him to do that just to her because it helps her with the memory, like you were talking about with the stuff with her mom.
Right.
And it goes awry, and everybody in the mansion starts having, fits. And then the sex patrol. Then the sex patrol shows up to try to stop things. So yeah, so this was the episode I was in was the one where that happens the second time. Now we were not in that scene, like they didn't show us doing that, but yeah, that happens in that particular episode. So when we're having the party, Rita is upstairs with Flex, where Flex is trying to help her orgasm to remember, because that happened when it happened the first time. It helped her, it unlocked something in her mind about her repressed memories. And so, yeah, so all that's happening at the same time. So, but I'm not in that particular scene. Yeah, they didn't have us do that.
Okay, I was wondering. I couldn't remember if that was. No. I just remember it taking place on the street. So
yeah, exactly. I don't know. I can't remember if that was. I'm assuming that was early season. I mean, mine's episode 4, so it could have been 1, 2, or 3 when that happened. I want to. I believe it was season 2 because I don't think Flex is in season 1.
No.
Yeah, so it was either 1, 2, or 3 where it happened when they're outside in the town. Yeah, in season 4, it happens in the mansion.
Okay.
Yeah, and then after that, like us, Flex disappears. We all disappear. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Although I think you see him again in flashbacks later.
Yeah, he does appear later. At this point in the show, I think Diane Guerrero's stealing it.
Yes, she is fantastic.
Don't get me wrong, the other actors are doing good, but I mean, she just, there's something about what she's doing as Jane, even though she doesn't play all 64 personalities of the character because they don't do that in the script. The other actresses who are portraying the different personalities, how she has to interact with them and yet still reflect them as when she's outside, when they're fronting. I think that just gave her like such a range of things to do that just kind of put her above everyone else in that regard. Bomer and Fraser, it's hard to, they're voice acting, so it's a little bit different because you have to remember, again, Matthew and Riley, who are playing the characters physically. A lot of their performance is what's really giving you the emotion.
I was surprised when I watched it for the first time how much we actually see Matt Bomer and Brendan Fraser in the series. I didn't expect to see. Yes, I didn't expect to see them playing them in other like either in flashbacks, or we would get these weird mental things where they saw themselves as themselves. I was surprised. I didn't expect them to actually be in it that much. So that was a nice surprise for me. And I thought I agree with you. I think Jane is the standout, especially in this season. But yeah, I would say definitely Larry and Cliff, would be 2 and 3 for me. I think their arcs are fantastic, especially the stuff with Cliff and his daughter.
Yes, I agree. Whereas like Jovian Wade is Cyborg, I mean, I like him. I like him as an actor far better than the actor who played him in Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just this character has he has a gravitas to him as Victor, whereas the other guy is just a guy in a suit on Justice League to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Victor's story in season 2 seems to be, it's almost like he like comes in and out of the main story. It's like he has his own thing going,
right?
Because all this stuff with his girlfriend and dealing with his father, who played by the great Phil Morris. I love Phil Morris, so that was a nice seeing him on the show. I think he's a fantastic actor. And then learning that he's got this trauma over the death of his mother and all these things that we were finding out, but the relationship between father and son there, I think it's very well done in this.
They do a lot of parental father son, father daughter.
Oh yeah,
it's all for all the characters really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we find out. I mean, we get that a little later, but Jane and her father, even though the what caused everything, or Rita and her mom, Cliff and his daughter, Larry and his sons, Niles and Dorothy. Yeah, everybody's got that kind of family dysfunction.
The only thing I didn't like was the Rita story. And that's nothing against April Bowlby. I think she plays a wonderful role doing the role. I just didn't care for the story arc for her as much compared to the others.
Yeah.
And her character in this series it was kind of astonishing for me because, I knew her from like 2.5 Men, where she plays just this kind of like, sex pot.
Ditzy sex pot.
Yeah. And this was a very, very, very different character for her to play. Along with Diane Guerrero too, because I knew her from Orange Is the New Black.
See, I didn't know them before this, so to me they're all new to me.
Yeah, because both of them, I knew them from being more comedic. Like Chris, I knew them from that. So yeah, I'd seen Diane Guerrero do some more dramatic. I'd never seen April Bowlby do anything dramatic before. Yeah. So I was kind of impressed because she was showing a different side that I had not seen her play before.
Absolutely.
If you hear sirens, that's just people outside.
They're coming to get you.
They're coming for you.
Yeah.
That's the Bureau of Normalcy. They'll knock down your door in just a moment.
Yep. Yeah, we already know I'm not normal. But yeah, okay. Let's go on and move on to season 3. There's 15 episodes in this one, and it opens up with the culmination of Dorothy's confrontation with the Candlemaker, and that leads to the devastating loss, which is the death of Miles Calder. Spoiler. The Doom Patrol is at a difficult crossroads, and each member struggles to face who they are and who they want to be. And things get a whole lot more complicated when Madame Rouge arrives in a time machine with a very specific mission. If only she could remember it. Michelle Gomez joins the cast as Madame Rouge, a shape-shifting enemy of Niles Calder, who was one of the many underlings at the Ant Farm Science Labs when he was engaged in his questionable scientific experiments. Rouge arrives in a time machine from the future with the intent of killing Niles, but since he died at the culmination of dealing with the Candlemaker at the end of last season, that's no longer an issue anyway. Upon her arrival, she seemingly sends a rival of Rita's down from the local town theater to her demise. Spoiler, that character returns later, and we'll come back to her when it's time. But the Brotherhood of Evil, the Sisterhood of Dada, the Bureau of Normalcy, and the Anthem, among other adversaries, await them. Is Rouge in league with these groups, or is she on her own agenda? Negative Man loses his negative spirit, but gains a new entity called Keeg, which is kind of like his negative spirit child, instead of the adult negative spirit of previous seasons, giving Larry a chance to be a father once again. Victor gives up being cyborg and gets rid of all of his outer tech, but still is somewhat of a cyborg. You don't see it. and Dorothy goes with Danny the ambulance. He actually goes from being a tire to a full-fledged ambulance, folks, to find her own path. He basically changes from the street to the ambulance to be able to travel, and is now a portal to wayward souls, though mostly kind of LGBTQ in a way. Most of the characters in some way are representing that, to hide from the real world. That's not a bad thing, by the way. It just happens to be what they were kind of flamboyantly showing in the show. Can the team manage to survive their own internal strife and habitual self-loathing to defeat their enemies once again, or will this spell the end of the team for good? Season 3 is quite the deal.
My biggest question was, where did Danny drop the rest of us? Because I don't come back. So yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird thing. Because in season 4, the Dannysons are out and about, but it's not the same group.
Right.
And Flex isn't there. So it's like, you went with wherever Flex went.
Yeah, we're still out floating through the cosmos somewhere, yeah.
So
I enjoy, I love Michelle Gomez, so that's, I'll start with that. She's fantastic. I did laugh a little that she shows up for her first appearances in a time machine, because she had just come off playing the Master on Doctor Who, which I thought was, was funny. But she is fantastic. I have enjoyed her in numerous things, and she is really good. And I thought she played off Rita very well.
Yes, that character, that dichotomy between those two characters and how they play off each other, and how it evolves for season 3 and 4 is one of the stronger elements of the latter seasons. Very well written. And I have to say, this is probably the best written DC TV series that they've had, period, overall.
Do you think some of that comes from the fact that these are lesser known? I mean, not to comic fans, but to non-comic fans. Do you think that helps?
I think part of it is what they had to work with from source material. They're working with Morrison and Pollock's era, and that is actually some of the best written DC stuff of the 90s.
Plus, since they're on Max, they can be adult. They can do an adult show. They're not doing we've got to make this R-rated comic a PG-13 show.
Right.
They don't have to shy away from topics and things.
All of their DC TV shows, like Swamp Thing, was well written as well, and so was Titans. But Titans lost the narrative a little bit.
Yeah,
because they first thought they didn't have quite the right casting of characters, in my opinion. Over there, they had good casting of the as far as the actors. I'm just talking about the roster of characters weren't always in sync with what was the comics that they were basing stuff off of, and they really kind of lost some of it because they were like, they didn't do enough with Troya. They didn't do enough. They didn't quite do Trigon right. There was just little things that it's like, whereas I think Carver really hit it well and knew what he wanted and really fought hard for it for this series. And I think everybody on the writing staff got it. Whereas on Titans, it was like Jeff Johns and Greg Berlanti were like trying to do the Wolfman Perez stuff, but they wanted to add some of the more modern things with the Jason Todd as Robin, and it's like, you don't need that in there. You didn't need the weird. His name's Ian something, the guy who played Batman.
Right, yeah.
I good actor, but not for Bruce Wayne.
No, and I feel the whole premise of the Titans, as opposed to Doom Patrol, was, the whole premise of Titans was originally Robin says fuck, and they tried to once again overdo the adult aspect of it.
Mhm.
Make it a rated R show, adult rated R show.
Right.
We can. So yeah. They didn't ask if
Whereas
they
Doom
should.
Patrol was already rated
Exactly.
R.
Right.
Doom
Yeah.
Patrol was already rated R because it was Vertigo, so it fit. Swamp Thing was already kind of a rated PG rated, PG-13 R because it was still the horror slash.
Mhm.
Yeah, very much body horror. Yeah.
Yeah, so that worked, but it doesn't really work with Titans as much. So there you go. But yeah,
Plus, also at that time period too, most non-comic fans, I'm thinking readers or viewers who are not comic fans, the
mhm.
Teen Titans was a kids' TV show. It was a kids' cartoon.
Yeah.
More people knew Teen Titans Go than knew Marv Wolfman and George Perez's Titans.
True.
Yes.
And so there was a lot of people that were off. It was off-putting to some of the audience because what the heck is this?
Yeah.
This is not the Teen Titans, that kind of thing.
Right. Well, of course they didn't have Cyborg,
Yeah.
and nothing against the actress who played Starfire, but there was, of course, the backlash from some audience members, or not, audience members because of her race. It's like,
yeah, but I mean, but also she wasn't like the Starfire in the cartoon is this happy-go-lucky, bubbly, and she really wasn't that in the show either.
Well, she was more the Perez.
Yeah,
she was more the Wolfman Perez.
Yeah,
but
and
still,
so
I mean, it was kind of a weird thing there. But,
yeah.
But that's.
But I would say Doom. I think Doom Patrol, they cast well. I mean, because I know what the characters look like in the comics, and most of the cast really resembled. I mean, I thought Timothy Dalton was inspired casting for Niles Calder.
And the writing was. The writing was exceptional.
Yeah, because it's not what I would have expected. But then when I saw it, it's kind of like, oh, that's perfect. Right. And I think Michelle Gomez as Madame Rouge worked in that same vein. It's, oh my God, that's perfect casting.
Yeah. So, some of the characters, and it gets into Rouge is kind of like a central character. She's not the villain du jour, shall we say? she's not the central villain.
She almost replaces Niles. She joins the team.
Right.
They don't necessarily like her. Kind of like when they worked with Niles, they didn't really like him.
Yeah.
But, she kind of fills that role.
Yeah. That's a good observation, actually. Yeah. And since she worked with Niles in the ant farm, and that's interesting that she does that. Yeah, that's a good observation. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, because she's playing them,
right,
and to get them to do to get them to do what she needs them to do or wants them to do, much in the way that Niles did, because he was like, Niles never just went, "I need you to do this. Can you do this for me?" He would try to convince them or trick them into doing, and Madame Rouge kind of starts out a lot that way a lot too, telling them things that may not necessarily be true to get them to do what she wants them to do.
Right. So it's the third season is kind of weird because I'm not as big of a fan of some of the villains. I'm not really a big fan of the Brain and
Monsieur Mela. Yeah.
The Sisterhood of Dada was kind of,
That's the season where we get the butt monsters too, right?
Yes, that's where it begins.
Yeah.
It's not, but the apocalypse actually comes in.
Yeah, that's the next season. Yeah.
Yeah. But so we'll get to that in just a second. They get into more of Dorothy a little bit after she's matured. She's gone on to leave the team, which is another kind of like another heartbreak for the team, because even though they lost Niles and they didn't like Niles, they liked Dorothy. And they're like, well, the whole reason we were put together in a way was because we're supposed to protect this kid. And now she's leaving us. It's like, now, well, okay, or, the old man died and he was always a jerk. He screwed us, but yeah, type thing. But Robot Man, this is one of the things that Brandon does really well. I mean, he doesn't want her to go because it's like, I already lost one kid. I lost my daughter. I didn't get to have my daughter because of this, and now you're, you kind of wonder how Brendan does that.
And also around this time as well is when Jane kind of cuts off Robot Man, where she's kind of changed to where she doesn't want to have anything to do with him. So he almost loses two surrogate daughters at the same time.
Yeah, and that's why you start seeing him spiral.
Yeah, he's doing all of these tricks of taking the pills or trying to do whatever to make himself better to get not only his kid back and grandkid, but the two surrogate daughters he's lost. And he makes things so much worse by trying to make things better.
Right. Yeah, people forget that the character gets Alzheimer's of all things, and you sit. They do the physical acting that Riley does in this, where he starts, vibrating his arm up and down, or he's in these weird positions where he freezes. It's like, how the heck does he do that? And because he's wearing like 35 pounds of armor.
It's big. Yeah, it's a big suit.
And and he does a flying, not a flying kick, but like a standing kick, like a pump kick. And it's like you're wearing those shoes that must weigh like 8 pounds on your foot. And you have your leg up in the air, past higher than your hip. How do you hold that? You almost wonder if they have like green screen men that hold them in position and then digitally remove it.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Movie magic at its finest.
Yeah, because just to see him do it, it's like that's a much. That's a bit much.
Yeah, because like I said, I've watched him walk, and I know it's not always easy. He is very.
And well, I love how they did certain scenes where, like, he couldn't walk upstairs. And it's like, is it because he can't walk up the stairs to the character, or is it because Riley can't actually physically walk up the stairs? It's just too hard to lift my feet that far,
Yeah, and like I said, and those shoes are so big too. Like they're bigger than the steps. There's it's just there's a lot of logistics that goes into all that.
Yeah, so it's kind of a cool thing. The time thing, though, they start going through time back and forth, trying to figure out how to resolve things, and they're all trying to get something of themselves back again. And it's like, haven't we gone through 2 seasons of this? Haven't you learned your lesson yet? No, we gotta keep trying, keep failing. And it kind of you kind of wonder, did it seem like the 3rd season was kind of like a holding season?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, anytime you have cast changes like that too, you invariably spend a lot of time with the new person. And it did seem like there's a few episodes where Madame Rouge is getting most of the attention, and the other guys are kind of secondary to that. But yeah, it definitely, it almost became like a shift in tone without Niles and Dorothy there.
Right.
Not only that, I think the characters were kind of adrift. And sometimes I think that made the story feel like it was adrift. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but with the characters not having...
It's how well crafted that script stories are.
Yeah, because without Niles, because in the first 2 seasons, like even part of season 2, when Niles is not there much, Niles is still the driving factor behind most of what they're doing. And once he's dead, he's not that driving force for them anymore. And so some of them like Rita has not, or Larry have not had to do anything without Niles for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden they're, I think that's why those two kind of pair off a
We're
little,
off. Yeah.
because they have that in common. They've been together so long that, they can't imagine not the two of them not being there to, for each other.
Okay.
I have to gracefully bow out. I have another podcast that I have to do.
Okay.
And my dog wants out, so I apologize.
No, you're
So
good.
it's been great talking with y'all, and I look
fun.
forward to doing it again.
All right.
Yeah,
Have a
man.
good night, Chris.
All right, you too. Bye, y'all.
See ya.
Bye.
Yes, I'm not the only one. I'm doing two podcasts tonight too. I got one at 11, so I mean I'm not rushed. Yeah, not rushed or anything.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got
Oh,
one
it's
at
11. I thought it was at 10. I was gonna say we got to start wrapping up here, ramping it up. But let's see. Season 1, 2, and 3. Rate them on 5 stars so far. What would you say? 5-star scale.
I still think probably season 1's my favorite of the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Season 2 is, so I'd probably go 5, 4, 3 maybe.
5, 4,
season 1 is 5.
Okay,
season 1 is my favorite.
I go 4.5, 4.5, and 4.
Okay.
So far, but then we get into season 4,
mm-hmm.
and season 4, I have to say they really do pull all the stops out on the
mm-hmm.
4th season. In the final season of the series, the characters find themselves in mortal peril as they face off against the butt-apocalypse, mutant butt creatures created by the ant farm, which is the one of the silliest damn things.
Is that a sentence you ever thought you would say in your life?
No. But it's so Morrison, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And they're forced to give up their special immortality longevity that Niles Calder and infused in most of them in the team. Only Cyborg doesn't have it. By an insane cultist from the ant farm to bring back the godlike entity Immortimus, who would destroy the world. Only when the entity emerges, it's Isabel Feathers, Rita's rival from the local town theater that everyone thought Rouge killed when Rouge showed up in season 3. With the entity inside of her, with reality warping powers to take them on, and with them rapidly aging to match their true ages now that their longevity is removed, the patrol and the world are well and truly doomed. But there is hope in the guise of new allies. Can our intrepid heroes rise above all and find their own peace, or is this truly the end? I would say I got this last year around Christmas or so, and I watched like the first 2-3 episodes, and then I kind of lost interest a little bit because things were going on in my life, and I just never got back to it. And I knew I was coming back to do the podcast, so I was like, okay, I at least have to talk about season 4. So I sat down and I just binge watched that the last 2-3 days. And John Norris, my normal co-host, is in the chat. He says, "Hello, guys. How's it going? We're doing just well. I don't know what all you do. Oh, that's right. He just got out from caroling or something with his church. So, yeah. But yeah, the apocalypse is something to behold."
Yes. I wonder. I don't know when they knew it was the end. I don't know when they knew season 4 was it. I don't know if they knew before the season started, or because my one thing about season 4 is it does seem like it ends quick. It's like, because there's a lot of buildup, and then all of a sudden the finale just wraps up the problem really quick. And I wondered if that was the plan or not.
I don't know if it really. I don't know, because it's actually got 12 episodes, so I don't know. I think they kind of knew,
right? But I mean, like the finale with the butt apocalypse and dealing with it. It just and then I forget her name. The rival, Rita's rival, who comes back and all this.
Isabel Feathers, yeah.
Immortus, and all this, and there's all this stuff that we're building to, And it seems like and this is just how I'm remembering, I could be remembering it wrong, is that the Buttpocalypse just kind of like they're in the theater, this battle's going on, and then it's just
okay, yeah,
and
we'll
it's
get to
done. It's over. So like we've been building to this, and it's nothing. It's over super quick.
Yeah. No. I hear you. Well, the Buttpocalypse was the actual Buttpocalypse was before that, where they defeated.
Well, sure, but I mean we're dealing with all the butts in the fight at the end, and because they had already been to the future and seen the aftermath of the Buttpocalypse and dealt with all that, and saw the cyborg in the future, and
yeah. So, see that that was the beginning of the season, was that, and so they go to the future. And they meet future Cyborg, and they find out that the zombie butts that they created destroyed the world, and they have to go back and try to defeat them all. And they do it all.
I thought you were going to say wipe them out. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Sorry.
Toilet jokes, huh?
Sorry, they write themselves,
Yes, don't they? Don't they though?
Yes, they do.
Yes, but there's they get rid of all but two of them. One that they don't know exists, and one that they capture, and they have him frozen, but he gets unfrozen and escapes. But and then that's supposedly, we were told that they were all captured, but then they find out, oh no, there's a bunch more. but no, the fun stuff of season 4 really is the new characters that come in.
Yes.
We have the comic book heroine who becomes real life,
played by Madeline Zima plays her.
Yeah. Yes, Madeline Zima. And Casey is her Space Case. That's what her name is.
Yes.
Yeah.
We also do get the return of Dorothy.
Right.
And we do get Niles Calder one more time. So
yes. Well here, that's where we go with the return of Dorothy. We get into Danny the ambulance, Danny the what would you call that? The Boy Scout camp group zone.
It's almost like a homeless camp or a state park. Danny the state park or something. I didn't get invited back to that. Flex and I are still out. Yeah, we're all out. Yeah. We're on a planet somewhere having our own adventure. It's all good.
Yeah. But the whole development of Casey with I always want to go to Diane instead of Jane. There we go. That was really well developed. As Jane finally gets all the characters finally come to their final resolution, shall we say? That's what I felt really satisfied by the end of the season.
A very emotional final episode.
Yeah. Well, not just the final episode, but all like.
Well, sure, but I mean,
I mean, it's like the closure for all the characters. Really well done, and it's so rare you get that, where they actually can close everything off in a wrap it up a nice tight bow or whatever. That's, I think, what really made the season powerful for me.
Oh yeah, the getting to see, and I guess this is spoiler territory for me, but getting to see the rest of their lives at the end, seeing how like Cliff's death got to me. Seeing Cliff's end, I wasn't expecting it, and it was very emotional for me. But seeing all of the characters kind of go through that.
Right. Well, let's go ahead and spoil it for everybody. As everything comes down, winds to a close, they defeat Isabel and the Isabels and the Butts. they defeat them, but they don't defeat them. What actually happens is she moves all the butts to another dimension, and they all become a giant, like, Broadway hit musical group on another dimension, which is what she wanted as a character, and it's what the butts were actually supposed to be when they were trained and everything. So it's like they got the happy ending. That was kind of a cool thing. She returns and says, "I got something for all of you," and gives them all something to give them back their longevity. And we think that there's going to be happy endings for everyone. Only there isn't. We go to give Elastigirl hers, and she's already dead.
Yeah, because she's a ghost at the end.
Right. Her body's already expired, and she appears later, shortly thereafter, as a ghost, because they always have ghosts in the mansion, somehow. And
yes, and they're usually having sex in the mansion.
Yes, but it's funny because she's like, "Clifford, you're going to do this for me. We're going to have one last meeting, And she has a meeting and basically says, get rid of my body, burn my body and get rid of it. And they do that, and it's like, it's kind of they do the funeral pyre type thing, but it's also like a mockery of the Skywalker burning Vader, because Vader's armor is that plastic type metal thing, and you don't hear about the smell. And the first thing that happens is her body kind of like expands into this giant balloon. And which one was it? Was it Rouge who pops the balloon? I think it's Rouge.
I think it's Rouge. Yeah, I think it's Rouge. Yeah.
She pops the balloon and they go, "Oh my God, this smells like burnt rubber. Oh my God." And I thought that was a really cute scene. And she's like, "Well, you don't have to make a mockery of it, But that whole scene was well done. And it's like, but Rita's closure point was like, I've done everything I needed to do. I've lived long enough. I'm ready to go. I don't need longevity. It was really well done there. Of course, Isabel Gibbs, Robot Man, this pendant, this gemstone, and he goes home to his daughter and his grandson, and he thinks everything's fine because he's gotten the longevity back. But the fact was, he was already dying, even with the longevity, due to the Parkinson's disease and other things he has. So it almost immediately comes back with the jitters and freezing. And he's like, "Oh, I don't have that much time left." And so he's with his daughter, who's working on their car together, and he's in the front seat, and he's with the kid, and he looks into the crystal, and then, like you say, he gets to see everything he would see if he got to live the full length and see how his kids grow up and his grandkid grow up and everything.
And it wasn't a sugary kind of future. I mean, he got to see the good and the bad. Yeah.
He got to see all the good and the bad, all the stuff his grandson that made the same mistakes as he did, and everything else. But it's just that kind of I'm home. I'm here. I'm good. And you see the red lights turn off. And it's great that the daughter doesn't like scream or anything, like that. It's just a very poignant, quiet, emotional moment. And that quietness, given the loudness and the boisterousness of the character, to have that have to watch the lights dim out and just quietly fade into the good night, shall we say?
Yeah,
was perfect for the character. And before that, we got to see Brandon as Brandon for a brief little bit of time, and of course he's got to be an idiot during that period. But The only thing I didn't like was there was a scene where Brandon was as his human self, as Cliff, and he's taking a piss over the bushes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that first off, it wasn't necessary to anything, and it just seemed kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only thing I would have not done with him there. It just didn't make sense. It was kind of pointless and a little bit tasteless in my opinion, but that's just, that would be the only critique I have on that.
Right.
Larry, Negative Man, he meets a character called Mr. 104, who is the element man. He can turn into any element he wants, and they fall in love. And ultimately, there's tragedy between both of them at first, but at the end, Teague, the small negative entity spirit, takes him to the bottom of the ocean where Mr. 104 has turned himself into a brick of lead, just kind of like a brick like Danny.
Mm-hmm.
And they go out and they go into outer space and they become a star together. And they're together. The three of them are together and they form a star out in space, which was kind of a nice poignant thing for them as well.
Mm-hmm. Right, because that had been Larry as the test pilot. One of Larry's dreams was to go to space.
Yeah,
we find that out early in the series that he's test flying these pilots because he wants to go. Yeah, and he finally kind of gets his wish.
Yeah, he gets his wishes. He gets his wish of a new family, mm-hmm. someone who loves him and respects him. All the things, he gets the happy ending. Robot Man's ending is happy but tragic.
Right, because he still gets what he wants. His whole thing was, I want to be able to see these kids grow up.
Yeah.
And mm-hmm. even though he gets to do that, he just doesn't get to he does it all at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, the tragedy of losing Elastigirl, even though she's content with it, but mm-hmm. the sadness for everybody else. Vic has new tech.
Mm-hmm.
He becomes a new version of Cyborg. He kind of learns from his friends and he learns from his dad that they accept him for whoever he is. And once he finally realizes that, hey, everybody still loves me no matter what. He doesn't fear what he looks like anymore.
Right.
He gets more comfortable in his skin, and he becomes both an educator and the hero,
mm-hmm.
which I think is what he wanted, to give something back to the world more than just be. They never really showed him as the athlete like he is in the comics,
right.
But they're showing him more as an intellectual in this one, which is good for both the character and for Black characters in general. But I just liked how they did all of that.
Yeah, he's something more than just the superhero, the shiny superhero. He's, because everybody always looked at him and, oh, well, you're the muscle, you're the cyborg, you're the muscle. And like you said, he's getting to use his brain and his intellect. And he's also giving back because his friend who is a teacher, he mm-hmm. comes in and helps him. And so he's giving stuff to that next generation the same way that, someone gave him chances to learn stuff and try things.
Yep. So there's that. And then, of course, we have Jane, and Jane's, for all 64 personalities, have now kind of merged and are all fronting at the same time in unison. And how that works, she doesn't even really understand, but it works. She always says we instead of I, mm-hmm. as a general rule of thumb. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like, it's a good way to use the we and they pronouns, mm-hmm. because it demonstrates not just people with the different personality disorders, it represents those of us out there who have different aspects of ourselves. Like you and I, both being writers, there are different aspects to our personalities, mm-hmm. that actually speak to us as different voices in our heads.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And people don't really understand that as a rule because, you know, I can literally switch into a childlike persona if I want.
Right, because
And
otherwise, if we don't aren't able to do that, every character we write is going to be the same. And so we have
that's part of it, true.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about like when we're not writing, just shifting it in our own heads, because there's a difference between the voices of the characters we hear in our heads, and then like there's. I'm trying to think of the right phrasing of this. I've got like I said, I've got my inner child. That if I go to that, you're actually talking to a 7-year-old. And I don't do that in public very often for obvious reasons. But unless I'm around right people who know that that's what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. But there's also like a Gandalfian personality that I have. That's like my old wise man type person. And then there's, the teen rebellion type guy that's kind of like Jane was in the beginning of the story. So you kind of relate to all those things because what those represent for us normals, so to speak, is different aspects of our life at different times too. Because we're not all one thing. We're an amalgamation of all the things that we've become as we've merged, and that's what they're trying to present in that she's now come to grips and has awareness of all those things. So I think that's something that they did really well there. And then to have her, I think a lot of people didn't like the fact that she became lesbian because we don't want no LGBTQ, whatever, because she's with Casey at the end of the story. But I thought that was a really well done, heartfelt thing. I thought it was the right thing to do for that character because of the fact that, spoiler, all 64 personalities had been raped by her father. Not just one. It wasn't just one rape. It was multiples. And it wasn't just one thing that fractured her into all these personalities. It was something that happened multiple times. And and it took her all this time to get to that point of awareness of it. So her trust issues with men throughout the series, there was no way you were going to ever bring that character around at that point in the story because she hasn't healed. She hasn't healed that point yet.
Right. Because the closest she got to and I'm using a relationship, not a sexual, but a relationship, is that she does see something in Cliff.
Right.
Early on that gives them this almost father, daughter, or brother, sister relationship where, there's something about, as dumb as she thinks Cliff can be at times, she learns to realize, she comes to realize that Cliff's not going to hurt her.
Right.
Cliff's looking out for her. And I love that relationship.
And because of that development, you're so right. The scene where he gives up his longevity and she screams. It's like, she's like thinking, no, I've lost you completely now. It's like losing a father to her. In a way.
Yeah, because they have that. Yeah, because even before the real revelation of what had happened to her, we realized that something obviously had happened to her.
I have a guest over my shoulder.
Yes. and I like to at the end here with what happens with Jane, there is a hopefulness for her future at the end of it, with her and Casey going off together, and she's going to live a life she's never actually lived a life before. She's, whereas the other personalities up to near the end, it was always, we've got to protect the child. Now they're protecting each other. They're all, like you said, they've all come together in this one thing. And I thought they handled it well. I think she played it very well. And and so there's a good hopefulness that she's going to have hopefully a happy life.
Yeah. So that's why I think they did such a really nice job, because almost almost everybody got a happy ending of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Even the villains, because Madame Rouge gets revenge on all the people who wronged her at the end. People don't realize, they think, well, she's going to be returned to villainy because of what's going on in the story arc. She doesn't. She goes back to the art farm and says, okay, I'm going to just destroy everything that made me what I am, and then rebuild my life afterwards. And it's kind of a funny part to that, because I mean, it's almost like she's got the flamethrower at the end, and I'm thinking, it's like, it's almost like the Al Pacino scene in Scarface with the machine gun. But yet it's also a visual throwback to Ripley and Alien. And it's just this whole thing of like, wow, they captured so much metaphor for other films in what was that, like a 3-second clip? And yet it still fits what she is and what she wants to accomplish, because she never did accomplish what she meant to set out to do, which was get revenge on Miles for rejecting her and making her what she was. And then she comes to the realization that it wasn't Niles. It was these other people, basically. Right. And
we do get a little revisit with Niles. We see how his back gets broken and all that stuff. What put him in the wheelchair.
That was so wild.
And
for those, I don't want to spoil that one. That one we're gonna let
let them
because that was really unexpected scene there. But yeah, I just thought it was really, the closure was really great. Overall, I'd give the series 4 stars out of 5.
It was really good. I liked it a little better than I liked season 3.
Well, I'm talking about the whole
series. It's very enjoyable, and like I said, I binge watched it, so I probably watched it over the course of, like, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks. A few episodes a day. And so it went really quick. So I didn't have the wait between things that viewers who watched it when it first came out did. Excuse me, sorry about that. Ugh. Sorry, nap time.
And you still got another podcast.
I still got dinner and a podcast to go. This is my 4th of 5 podcasts this week.
Oh wow, you're keeping busy.
It's weird. You don't do any for a while, and then you get invited to a bunch at one time.
Did you happen to read The Unstoppable Doom Patrol?
I did not. No.
Okay, well, let's talk about that real quick before we close out. Right. Unstoppable Doom Patrol 1 through 7, published by DC Comics. Writer Dennis Culver, artist Chris Burnham, colorist Brian Reber, lettering Pat Brousseau, cover artist Chris Burnham with colors by Nick Filardi and Brian Reber. Editor is Brian Abernathy. The genre is horror superhero, and it was originally published from May to December of 2023. What it's about: after the events of the Lazarus Planet series in DC, more people than ever have become metahumans, and they've become misfits like the Doom Patrol, shunned and imprisoned by a fearful society. They're hidden away in the dark, lost to a system that only sees them as weapons or guinea pigs. Stamp that forehead. And they're tactical bombs that can only be defused by who? The Unstoppable Doom Patrol. Led by Crazy Jane's mysterious new alter known as the Chief, Robot Man, Elastic Woman, and Negative Man are joined by their brand new teammates Beast Girl and Degenerate on a mission to save the world by saving the monsters. What did I think of this series? Well, I bought the series, and it was pretty much the only series I did buy from DC during their Dawn of DC era because of the TV show. Something about when I saw the solicitation, it felt like that was a natural progression from the TV show into a new comic series. It turns out it wasn't. It was slightly different than what was going on in in a TV show, but it does pay homage to the TV show. It also pays homage clearly to the origins of the comics. It gives us the story, gives the team a new mission, protecting newfound metahumans from the world. Dennis Culver basically takes the X-Men and makes them back into the X-Men, who themselves were kind of a knockoff of the Doom Patrol back in the 60s. And I think it's pretty damn funny that he does this because it's an interesting direction to go. And he does a great job with it. The chief character that Jane plays is similar to the psychologist version in the TV show, but she has a little bit more of the Calder personality too. It's like a kind of a combination of the two. And the new characters, Beast Girl is kind of like a pink version of Beast Boy, only a female. And Degenerate is a kind of a weird looking white. He's not like Clayface. It's like a giant white version of Killer Croc or something like that. But they're quite interesting characters. I like Chris Burnham's art as well, and I was sad when the series only stopped at 7 issues. I think that this is the type of comic book that DC should be putting out instead of those redundant 30 Bat books a month or 15 Superman books a month. We don't need that stuff. It spoke to me as very akin to the TV show and had a sense of classic pre-Vertigo Doom Patrol with a dash of the Claremont era X-Men. I consider it one of the top 5 series DC's produced last year in 2023, and I give it 4.5 stars. I'm going to quickly show you guys a little bit of the artwork from the first issue here. If Midnight just doesn't try to eat the bag. There is the cover.
I do like Burnham's art.
Yeah. And you can see Degenerate's kind of like this white thing that you can see the scales kind of growing out of his body there. And then you can barely see Beast Girl in the little corner, but yeah. There's some of the artwork. And the paper stock is that it's not the super high gloss, even though you do see a sheen here. It's that sort of pseudo newsprint, but it's got a little more Baxter paper feel to it. It's not too bad of a. And the girl, like the person in the suit there with the mask, that's Jane as the chief.
Okay. I'm assuming this is probably out in trade by now.
Oh yes, it is available in trade. But this is the kind of thing I just enjoyed. And it's so rare that I buy DC books, as people who watch this channel on a regular basis know. So just the fact that I'm even buying it should tell you that it's probably a good thing. So sorry I don't have a better like a scan of these that I could have shared. As it turns out, my computer kind of went wonky on me today, and I didn't have a chance to scan because it was just locking up. Wouldn't open up my Photoshop program to do that with. But that's pretty much it for the show. We're all Doom Patrol fans, along with the Doom Patrol, and hopefully we'll see some more of these characters, preferably the version that we see on the TV show, moving forward in comics, or maybe even a new TV series. I mean, but most of these characters have met their final conclusion. There's still open stories available to some of them. You can always bring back Jane and a whole new team.
Mm-hmm. And with DC basically rebooting everything now that they're under the new, James Gunn, Peter Safran era. Who's to
Yeah.
say that we might not see a new version? I mean, certainly, even if it's just animated. I mean, the new Creature Commandos is doing pretty well.
Hmm.
I think some of these characters, lend themselves well to animation. I think the Doom Patrol would look good animated.
There was a Doom Patrol animated series a while back, but I didn't get to watch it.
Yeah, I remember seeing them on. They appeared a few times on, at least once or twice on Brave and the Bold, where they kind of had that old style, which was a very old style kind of DC
Mhm.
throwback kind of comic, and I remember they were fun there. So
Yeah. So go ahead and tell everybody where we can find you online, Bobby.
BobbyNash.com is the link, the hub for everything. I'm on all the social medias. There's links there to all of that. You can also find, I'm on, like I said, I'm on all the social medias. I have a Patreon page, Amazon author page. I do a lot of events. There's a list of upcoming conventions. I'm done for this year, but I've got 2 in January. So yes, we're already getting next year good plans. So
Oh
I get
yeah.
out and hawk the books.
Yeah, that is kind of the thing that we always have to do
Yeah.
as creators.
Yeah, I do a lot of, and because I work in so many different, mediums, I also do different types. I do a lot of comic conventions. I'll do literary shows or pop culture cons, or I do a lot of stuff with libraries and bookstores and whatnot. So
Right. Okay. And of course, you can find me on here at YouTube, Quoth Raven Lewis Bright Raven. You can email me at Quoth Raven Lewis Bright Raven LBR or Quoth Raven LBR72@gmail.com. You can also reach me on Facebook at Lewis.BrightRaven. That's the best 3 places to find me right now. We're going to have a store. We're building it right now. We're going to have t-shirts and posters and other good stuff shortly. Unfortunately, due to health reasons for my father and myself, I just didn't have time to get it done this year in time for Christmas, and I apologize to the folks for that. But we'll have them ready for hopefully late January. I'll be able to bring that in. But we appreciate you watching as always. And next week, I'll be here with John Norris. I'm going to co-host on Thursday at 9 p.m. And then normally we have a Friday night show. We're not going to have a Friday night show next week because I got 2 medical appointments that day. And I don't know how long they're going to be. So I probably won't be able to get set up in time. So we're going to skip next week. So after Thursday, we'll probably be after Christmas. So hopefully we'll see what people get for Christmas, and we'll talk about that. But until then, we thank you for watching. Please hit the like and share buttons for the algorithm here on YouTube. Help build my channel, and we will see you guys next time on Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven.